And then there were 4. How's it going, everybody? I'm Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. It's championship week, everybody. I know. It's pretty great. It's that time of year we've been waiting for basically since the middle of February. It's Homestead time. The round of 8 is officially over, and it more than proved itself to be the most competitive round we've seen in chase history. Granted, chase history, at least this kind of chase, is only 3 years old, so not that impressive, but still very competitive. Coming into Sunday's race at Phoenix, Kyle Busch and Joey Logano both had a 1-point cushion over Matt Kenseth for the final 2 spots in the chase. Denny Hamlin was 2 points back. Harvick and Kurt Busch both were farther back they needed to win. Jimmy Johnson and Carl Edwards, as I've talked about many times already, they were locked in. Wins at Texas and Martinsville for the two of them. They were already good to go, so they were just riding around on Sunday. And I talked about last week how Phoenix was going to be probably one of the most tense races in modern NASCAR history, and it did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. Rookie Alex Bowman started on pole in the 88 car and led the most laps on the race and had one of the best cars, so he was a surprise. Meanwhile, behind him, all the other chasers, like I'd mentioned, like Joey Logano, Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, and Denny Hamlin, all basically fought for spots within the top 5 for the most part. Kyle Busch was the slight exception. He started the race, really didn't look like he was very good, was running outside the top 10 for a while, but by the end, he dialed his car in and he looked like a top 5 contender by the end. Now, while it was surprising to see Bowman lead as many laps as he did, almost as equally big as a surprise, I think, to a lot of us was how much of a non-factor Kevin Harvick was throughout the afternoon. Kevin Harvick coming into this race had won like 5 of the last 6 Phoenix races. Like, it was ridiculous. Not to mention he's a chase driver. This is another one of those crucial, clutch moments for him, which he's excelled so well at the last couple of years. But that team, they really only at the very end did they look like they maybe have a top 5 car. The rest of the race, they were murking around 10th place, 15th place. Again, not much of a factor. Now, there's a few other little minor storylines within it, like Jimmy Johnson and Martin Truex Jr. both being caught for a kind of weird passing the pace car while entering pit road penalty that I've never really seen put into action before. I've never even really been on the lookout for it, and apparently neither are these drivers. So, although a couple cars that looked pretty strong earlier basically got screwed and put a lap down early on and really ruined their days because there wasn't that many yellows. So I kind of felt bad for them, but of course Johnson's already moved on to Homestead and Truex is already out of the chase, so it kind of got brushed under the rug by a lot of people. Now, I know a lot of you guys know me, or at least know kind of my NASCAR affiliations, so I'm sure a lot of you guys are waiting for me to talk about one of the biggest things that happened on Sunday. One of the most just, how could this have happened moments of the afternoon, probably of the entire season. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Why did Denny Hamlin stay out on that caution with 50 to go? Like, why did he do that? I know this was a very intensely discussed topic. I mean, Denny Hamlin, he was running like 7th place. He stayed out, didn't take tires. Everyone else took tires, at least 2. And so he was basically a sitting duck. Like, why did Denny Hamlin do that? And I mean, it was such a major factor in the race. I mean, Denny Hamlin, he had all the chance in the world of racing his way in. He was only a few points out. Why did he take no tires? It was just, honestly, it stole all the attention from the race. I couldn't focus. I don't think anyone focused on anything else. I don't think anyone remembers even who won, because everyone was still sitting there thinking about why Denny Hamlin took no tires. So yeah, that was just the big takeaway of the day, really. In the end, Joey Logano got the win to hold on to his chase spot. Kyle Busch finished 2nd to hold on to his chase spot. So in the end, nothing really changed. Kevin Harvick ultimately finished 4th. So like I said, he came on strong late. Kurt Busch actually had his best race of the chase, or at least of this round, with a 5th place run. He actually showed signs of having a contending car at times. Hamlin pit late and stuff, came back, he ended up finishing 7th, which wasn't good enough. Carl Edwards was kind of the one Gibbs guy that wasn't really ever in contention to win. He finished 19th. I talked about Jimmy Johnson. He raced his way up to the lead, actually, when he had that pit road penalty. It was still kind of weird. Put him a lap down way back in traffic, basically ruined his day. He was ultimately caught up in a wreck later on, went to the garage. He finished 38th. Now, the last bit with Denny Hamlin, I know was a joke, but obviously the biggest issue that everyone knows about and everyone expects me to talk about was the second-to-last restart of the race between Matt Kenseth, Alex Bowman, and Kyle Busch. I haven't talked about Matt Kenseth yet in detail for a reason. As most of you probably know at this point, I am a huge Matt Kenseth fan. Matt Kenseth is honestly probably the reason I've watched NASCAR as long as I have, because I've really enjoyed rooting for him throughout pretty much his entire career. I've been a fan since 2004, so I did not get to see him win his championship, but I've seen him win dozens of races. I've seen him contend for championships almost every year, so we've had a great run together. I say together, obviously I've had nothing to do with it, but I like to think that I have. So I'm going to try not to get super emotional talking about this, but it was a devastating moment in yesterday's race. If you don't know what I'm talking about and didn't see the race, let me spell it out for you. Matt Kenseth came into the day in good shape, only 1 point out of the chase cutoff. Early on in the race, ran top 10, worked his way to the top 5, and then by the end of the race, they really seemed to have dialed his car in to be maybe the best car on the track. At least it was between him and Alex Bowman, who had the fastest race car towards the end of the race. On that same caution that Denny Hamlin took no tires, Kenseth took 2, whereas a lot of people behind him took 4, but Kenseth restarted second. He quickly took the lead from Hamlin, and he drove away. And for the whole long last green flag run of the day, Kenseth was pulling away from guys like Logano and Kyle Busch while they battled for that spot, and Harvick and Bowman and all them. He was pulling away even though he only had 2 tires. So it seemed like Kenseth was cruising to a victory and to a berth into the Homestead Chase final finale. I mean, he led the last 60 or so laps of the race, but then with 2 to go, not even 2 to go, about a lap and a half to go, Michael McDowell, who was several laps down, blows a tire, brings out the caution. So that set up an overtime restart where Matt Kenseth was restarting the lead on the outside like everyone was all day. Bowman in the 88 was on the inside. Meanwhile, Kyle Busch and Joey Logano were in row 2, both of them basically needing themselves to do well and the other guy to suck on that restart to make it in. On the restart, Matt Kenseth got a solid jump from the outside lane. Alex Bowman spun his tires just a little bit. That allowed Kyle Busch to make a move to the inside of him 3 wide. Bowman made an aggressive block. The two made a little bit of contact, and that kind of shot them into turn 1 at a slightly awkward angle. Matt Kenseth, who thought he was clear at the time, was cleared by his spotter. Ultimately, at the last second, Bowman got his nose right back in there. Kenseth came down. Both of them made contact, pretty heavy contact. Kenseth was turned around completely, slid up into the outside wall, and ended his day. He finished 21st. Now, of course, quickly everyone would assume blame. Matt Kenseth's spotter, Chris Osborne, which in my opinion is one of the best spotters in the sport. I've listened to a lot of different spotters before. He's one of the best. He took immediate blame for it. Kyle Busch also took immediate blame for it. He claimed that he felt bad because he felt like he kind of shot Bowman into Kenseth, which, looking at the replay, it could go both ways. I think no one sole person has the blame there. I think it was pretty evenly distributed between several parties. In my personal opinion, when you look at it, I mean, Alex Bowman and Kyle Busch both made very aggressive moves, which is fine. Obviously, Kyle Busch needed to win or get up to that second spot to make it into the chase. Obviously, I knew it was at stake for him. I don't blame him for making an aggressive move. And even the same kind of goes for Bowman. Obviously, he's up there racing with some chasers, and he's a rookie, so he needs to show a little bit of, respect to them in that sense. But at the same time, he's racing for his first win. Like I said, he might have had the best car. I don't blame him for being aggressive either. But in the end, I don't think you can deny that obviously Kyle Busch bumping Bowman, getting him sideways a little bit heading into the corner, definitely messed up his angle, and I think regardless of how far Kenseth came down, Bowman was going to slide up out of his groove and possibly get into the 20 at least a little bit. The scenario reminded me a lot, maybe to a slightly lesser extent, of that race at Martinsville, I think in 2012, where it was Johnson and Gordon were on the front row, and then Boyer took him 3 wide on a restart and just wiped everyone out. It kind of reminded me of that. It probably wouldn't have been quite as severe, though, had Kenseth kind of stayed in the outside lane. And that's where obviously some of the blame comes on Kenseth and his spotter's communication. Obviously, in that circumstance, I think he was clear when his spotter said clear, but with that extra bump from Kyle Busch and from kind of him sliding it in there at that slightly awkward angle, yes, ultimately he did fill the spot at the last second, and that just ultimately, it was a really awkward restart. It was not your typical clean restart you'd seen all day. It was people coming in at different angles, filling spots at a different rate than they had all day. So, I mean, obviously I felt bad that Kenseth's spotter took so much blame for it, because I don't think any other spotter would have done a better job in that circumstance. So in my opinion, I think the blame pretty much goes evenly across those 3 drivers in a sense. Kyle Busch made the aggressive move, got into him. Bowman made the aggressive block, had a bad angle getting into turn 1, and then Kenseth came down. If Kenseth had stayed up, he might have gotten bumped a little bit, but I doubt he would have spun out. I don't know how bad it would have screwed him up, but I think the point is, regardless of whether Kenseth came down, I think there was still going to be a little bit of contact. Definitely not severely, but still a little bit of contact, because Bowman's line, he was carrying too much speed because of the bump. He was at a bad angle. It was going to be a disaster regardless. Kenseth coming down made it the ultimate disaster and broke many Kenseth fans' hearts in that circumstance. And that's all I really have talking about the race. Obviously on Friday I'll talk more about previewing Homestead, and it'll be the big ultimate preview show. I'll pick my winners. But what I want to do just to finish this episode is I just want to talk about, because I know all of us are sports fans, at least to an extent. I think all of us obviously watch NASCAR, and I think a lot of us watch other sports as well. So you guys kind of know what it feels like to lose, to win, to ultimately suffer that major defeat that just crushes you, to get that big win that just lifts your spirits for days afterwards. We all know that feeling. And I just kind of want to talk for a minute, because I've watched sports my whole life. I've never seen one of my sports teams in football, baseball, basketball, or even NASCAR make it to even like a championship series or game. I've never even seen them get there before. So I know a little bit about dealing with defeat and losses, but I can tell you guys right now, that race yesterday, at the end of it, that was probably the hardest loss to swallow as a sports fan that I've ever had to deal with. And I think if I learned anything from it, it really just reminded me why it feels so good when your NASCAR team specifically wins a race. Because us NASCAR fans always remember, NASCAR is not like football or baseball or basketball or anything like that, where there's always one winner and one loser, and no matter how bad you played, as long as you won the game, that was good. And and to be a good team, you have to win way more than you lose. NASCAR, it's not like that. We all know NASCAR, there's one winner each week and 39 losers. And I kind of like NASCAR in that sense because it teaches you to kind of find the small victories in different things. I mean, when you get a 7th place finish, you can celebrate that, even though, yes, you lost, but hey, a 7th place finish at maybe a track you're not good at. Like, you can still find small victories even if you don't achieve the ultimate victory. And that's just another reason I do like NASCAR in the sense that when your driver or your person, people you're fans of, when they do win that race, because since it happens so infrequently compared to other sports, it feels so good. And I think just being a Kenseth fan and watching that huge swing in emotions at the end of the race there really reminded me how good wins feel. And it kind of made me actually think back to, I mean, I've been a Kenseth fan for years. Like I said, I've watched him win 30 races probably, at least in the Cup Series, more in the Xfinity Series. And just made me stop and think, I'm like, man, so many other people are NASCAR fans and root for guys that some of them are younger, so they haven't gotten there yet, but they will probably. Like Matt Kenseth, and at least me as a fan of his, I've been fortunate to see him win as many races as he has. I've had weeks where I didn't like it at school, I had a lot of stuff to do, I was mad at something, I was tired, and whatever. But when Matt Kenseth won a race, it'd make that whole week 10 times better. And it just kind of reminds me that it's one of the great things about NASCAR. While you may not win as often, the wins feel that much better. And the crushing loss yesterday kind of helped remind me of that. And I think that's a good thing to keep in the back of everyone's mind, especially as NASCAR fans, as sports fans in general. Because at the end of the day, it is just sports. I know obviously to the drivers and to the athletes themselves, it's more than that. But as a fan, from a fan's perspective, it is just a sport. And that's kind of my my profound speech of my life. I'll probably never talk like that again in a video, ever. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. There's only 2 more episodes to go, guys. I got this one coming out on Friday, and then I'm going to do one, I guess, next week about the champion and all that, and it'll be more like a celebration episode. So, party of 1 over here. Woohoo! Yeah! Drinks all around. Just going to be partying in my corner over here by myself, toasting all of you to the champion. Woohoo! Holding him up on a pedestal. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the race at Phoenix. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Hope you guys are looking forward to Homestead, because I think it's going to be heck of fun. For real, though. I'll talk about all the favorites. I'll preview kind of all the drivers and give you my interpretation of who's got the best shot on Friday. So look forward to that. That's all from me, everybody. Have a great week. I'll see y'all on Friday.